Okay. Here we go, everybody. Yes. Here we go. Friday. Oof, what a week. What a week indeed. Yes. Hopefully, we're not going to have any visitors today. Police are standing by. I don't think so. We're going to move on. There's Roger. There you go. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Let's check. Let's make sure there's no one behind any of these poles. I don't think so. My goodness, what an adventure on this Friday. Yes, I think we're good at 101. Yes. So far, so good. All right. Not the most exciting morning. Not the worst, but folks, when does spring arrive? It's freezing outside. Actually, tomorrow's going to be nice. Tomorrow and Sunday going to be nice. Mother's Day going to be nice. Yep, we're live. Hi, there's Jane Rice. Yes. Now, folks, tonight, Friday night. Now, first of all, coming up live at 3 on Fox Station. If you stream Fox Station, coming up live today, 3 to 4 o'clock on Fox Station. Tonight, it's going to be a lot of rain. So tonight, Court TV from 8 to 9. And then let's see what develops over the course of the weekend with Road Patrol Live. But I recognize a lot of you out there saying, "When are we riding again?" Well, it's going to rain all through the night and then stop sometime tomorrow morning. So there's nothing we can do about that. And it's raining right now, depending on where you are. But it is a very chilly Friday here in Dedham. The text messages are just, oh, good. There's Stephanie. We're going to bring her on in just a moment. Stephanie Murphy going to be joining us, folks. Attorney Stephanie Murphy. I don't think they've gone to lunch just yet. So, oh, good. We are set to go. And then let me just double check. I'm going to share a thought regarding the trial in just a moment, but we're actually going to start right out of the box. Ugh. I'll share with you what I think is going to happen this afternoon, but we're going to start with attorney Stephanie Murphy coming up in just 3 minutes. And we will talk about the Karen Reed trial. We'll also talk about the naked fat test coach, Aaron Thomas. Get a little jumpy now. Most travelers must now have a real ID to fly in the U.S., face extra screening. And we have a lot that, let me just double check if there was another story that I wanted. 2 minutes, folks. 2 minutes, we're going to begin. Okay, they did release the name. Nope. Okay. That's a lot. I have a lot to ask her. This is going to be, you're going to like this segment with attorney Stephanie Murphy coming up, which we're going to do in just one moment. It's funny, now we have the state police standing guard. I mean, whatever. Nothing will stop the broadcast. The troopers. In Rhode Island, we have Cranston Police, Providence, Warwick State Police, Pawtucket, East Providence, North Providence, all make sure that the broadcast goes accordingly. Here in Massachusetts, we have Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police, and also the sheriffs all saying, let us know, need anything, boom, boom, boom. So We're good to go. All right, we're going to go in 1 minute. We're going to start in 1 minute. 1 minute out. Day 13. Day 13. Well, we're going to start right away with attorney Stephanie Murphy. And remember, folks, if you have a legal problem or question, give her a call. That's what I would do. You're a friend of the show, Marin Barrett and Murphy. Call them, 401-228-8271. Marin Barrett and Murphy, 401-228-8271. And you can also look for them on both Facebook and you can also find them on Instagram. All right, right now, it's Friday afternoon. Very chilly out, obviously, on this Friday, May 9th, 106. Just to go through the rundown again, we are live on AM 1380 and also 99.9 FM. Now, you can always listen online at the website, depetro.com. We're also live on X. We are live on our Facebook page, and we are live on YouTube as well. So many different platforms, and everything is on demand, so you can listen and or watch whatever you want. Let's bring her on right now. It is our legal expert, and it is attorney Stephanie Murphy, who's going to join us on this. And she's patient. Stephanie, good afternoon and happy Friday, and thank you for your patience from yesterday.
Of course, John. Nice to see you.
Great. Stephanie, I want to start off with the Karen Reed trial. I'm going to ask you some various things about it, but a couple things about it. If you could touch on, there's talk that the Commonwealth is not going to call certain witnesses. One of them, and it's a big one, is the lead investigator in the case, a trooper by the name of Michael Proctor, who was terminated by the Massachusetts State Police. Can you touch on, one, is there an obligation for the prosecutor for what witnesses to call? And two, if the defense ends up calling the witness, what are the limitations for the defense calling someone as a witness?
Well, the Commonwealth is definitely free to call the witnesses that they choose to call, but they have to keep in mind that the burden is on them to prove each and every element, and also the jurors are looking for them to connect the entire timeline of events and also connect everything they did in their investigation. So by not calling that main witness, there's definitely going to be huge questions, because I know his name has been brought up and stuff like that in terms of the investigation. On the defense side, if the Commonwealth decides not to call him, they get to make those arguments in closing. You know, you've heard from everybody, but where's this star investigator that spoke to all these different people? You know, the burden's on the Commonwealth, not the defense. So if the Commonwealth doesn't call somebody, the defense can definitely use it against them. What are they hiding? Or the defense can try to call him and see what he has to say. So either way, they can definitely kind of use it against the Commonwealth and use it to strengthen their case and their theory of the case in regards to kind of what the police did and what they didn't do in this case.
But what about the manner of questioning? For instance, you know, Alan Jackson is very aggressive on cross, but what would be the limitations if you're, this rough on someone who would be your own witness?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that can happen. If the defense calls him as their witness, they would have to ask open-ended questions, the what, where, why, when questions that you see the prosecutor doing with all the witnesses. They can't really give statements. The only other thing that could happen is if that witness becomes hostile, the defense can move to treat him as a hostile witness, and then they're able to lead him through a cross-examination, even though it's on direct.
Now, if the prosecutor, in any case, as a matter of fact, if they feel they have enough evidence without calling a witness and you want to streamline it, is there anything stopping them from calling a witness? For instance, in the last trial, they had the homeowner, right, 34 Fairview, Brian Albert. This time, this trial, the retrial, it doesn't seem like they may call homeowner Brian Albert, since they're all alleging everything happened outside. Why would the prosecutor have to call, if they didn't have to, the homeowner?
No, I don't think they absolutely would have to call anyone, but what they do is they run the risk of the jury asking, why didn't they call him? The burden is on the Commonwealth. So that's something that, the defense can argue, why didn't you hear from this guy? What are they hiding? Why aren't they calling this person? Didn't you want to hear from him? The Commonwealth can't say that about the defense calling a witness because the burden is on them. But the defense can definitely argue, like, what would he have said? What would have happened? So they're definitely running a big risk by not calling a witness whose name is mentioned, especially the homeowners. And like I said, the defense can call those people and see how they react and see what they do. So that's going to be a really tough call for the defense to decide whether or not they want to call them. They have to weigh the pros and the cons. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what witnesses they call if the Commonwealth doesn't present somebody.
So the difference also in the line of questioning, be more open-ended as opposed to leading questions that you would do on cross.
Absolutely. So you never know what these witnesses are going to say. In this case, it's a little bit different because these witnesses did testify in the first trial. So if they said something different, you could definitely impeach them. But also, it's kind of also strange to impeach your own witness that you call to. So there's a bunch of different things they need to take a look at. But if the witnesses are saying inconsistent statements or not answering questions, they have prior transcripts that they can use to kind of get their point across.
Now, folks, again, it's attorney Stephanie Murphy. Now, Stephanie, it's Friday afternoon. There's a long held belief that attorneys are very cautious about what they want the jurors to go home with over the weekend, Mother's Day weekend, and so forth. Right now, we're led to believe waiting in the wings is the niece and nephew of Officer John O'Keefe, who then, it was his sister's children he was taking care of. They're expected, both minors, both juveniles. Two parts of this question. One, there's talk, well, they've already issued, there's no filming of them, there's none of their voice, nothing like that. But number two, I believe, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe the defense right now seemingly is kind of dragging through this current witness with possible hopes of hitting the end of the day, and thus the niece and nephew would not testify before the weekend.
I mean, that's definitely a strategy that, the defense could definitely use. I understand that point and stuff like that. There's also some times where I've had cases with juveniles who are called to the stand and not really offering much to the story or much to prove the facts. And sometimes as a defense attorney, I don't ask those kids questions and stuff like that unless it hurt the case and something I can cross-examine them on. There's a lot of times where I just stand up and say, Your Honor, no questions. And you probably don't want to do that right before the weekend, but that's definitely something that they could do depending on what these minors say. And also, depending on how the day goes and how long they're able to extend the witness on the stand right now.
It's funny you said that because when Officer John O'Keefe's mother, Peg O'Keefe, Margaret O'Keefe, took the stand, when the defense, Alan Jackson, got up, all he did was express condolences to the O'Keefe family. There was no cross. Now, Stephanie, it's been a big week with evidence. I'm just curious, any thoughts or just something that caught your eye as you were following the case this week?
Yeah, I think it's interesting in terms of the voicemail messages getting played and stuff like that. I mean, I was aware of it from, what was kind of on it from, the Netflix special or the miniseries and stuff like that. But, I wasn't there to see that reaction, and it's going to be interesting to see what the defense presents in terms of, setting the scene for why these messages, the timeline of the messages. But I wasn't in the courtroom, but I'm interested to hear or find out later after the fact what the jurors kind of thought of those voicemail messages getting played.
Could also be a lesson for various people or maybe someone you're dealing with. It's one thing you have a very heated argument with someone, but when you leave a voicemail, it goes on forever.
I know I tell my kids, my clients, I tell everyone, like every single thing, like you don't write something, don't write something if you can say something, say something if you could just say nothing. Every single thing is documented. And in this case, that hits that point home and stuff like that. All these messages, these text messages, erased messages, everything, it's crazy. You have to be really careful what you say, what you do in everyday life, and especially around a crime.
Now, Stephanie, we have another big trial that's going on right now. North Kingstown, that high school basketball coach, former Aaron Thomas, they call it the naked fat test. I believe the prosecution is calling up some rebuttal witnesses. Thomas did take the stand. It became very emotional. He was also apologizing for what he had done and said, it's cost him his livelihood as a teacher and as a coach. What are your thoughts on this Aaron Thomas trial?
Well, I think it's interesting because this is another case similar to the Karen Reed trial where this defendant has made prior statements and stuff like that. It's really difficult when there's prior statements and then all of a sudden years later to get on the stand and maybe, say something, well, I may have said that, but I didn't really mean that and stuff like that. And I think this is also an issue in this case in terms of, the first statements, I believe were, they weren't naked, all these different things. And then kids come in and testify that they were. And it really will come down to a credibility determination, whether or not, he took the stand. So the jury gets to see his reaction, the answers to the questions. So a credibility determination is really going to come into play in a case where the client takes a stand.
And especially something like this, I think his attorneys, John McDonald, I think they've done a really good job. I'm just wondering, Stephanie, I mean, as much as it's obviously embarrassing and uncomfortable, but I'm still unclear of the way that the law is written, whether or not he certainly was up against the line, but I'm still just not convinced that the way the law is written, that he actually crossed the line.
Yeah, I think in this case, I'm sure John made, like a McCone motion, not a McCone motion, but a motion for judgment of acquittal, but that's taken in light most favorable to the state. So there's really no determination of whether or not they met that burden. But I think the defense has to be very careful to make sure they present a lot of evidence, in terms of credibility of maybe the students and stuff like that, in order to, if the juror was to find that there was some intent or gratification in it, then, they need to be able to attack the credibility and stuff like that. So I agree. It's going to be interesting on that specific element of that charge.
Now, folks, again, it's attorney Stephanie Murphy. And Stephanie, this next story, I actually received an email, Kevin, and he was asking if I would bring this up when I chat with you. The airlines are now enforcing, and the registry of motor vehicles has been stressing people to get this real ID. And Kevin's question was, why would he legally have to get a real ID? And does he have any legal rights if an airline is trying to force him to be able to, you have to use a real ID in order to be able to travel?
I know right now they're kind of given like a sheet of paper saying that you can just go and get one. I mean, the real problem is going to be that you won't be able to get an appointment for the DMV to get one right now. States are so backed up. So right now, their airlines are allowing you to travel with a reminder that you need to do this. But there's going to come a day where they're going to say no. And they're going to say it's regulated by federal guidelines of what you need to fly and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure some sort of a class action on people in terms of people who didn't get a real ID and their damages and everything in terms of not being able to fly or go on a vacation that they planned. I mean, the airlines are letting you book the ticket, you're paying for a ticket, and then all of a sudden, if you can't fly because you don't have a real ID, it'll be a very interesting civil, study of what's going to happen.
And what about someone's rights regarding, for instance, when you are going to fly, you have to go through, I know some people may feel they're invading their personal rights, but you have to go through security. There's certain things you can and can't bring on an airline. I know people are feeling that maybe it's an infringement on their rights, but to me, when you arrive and go through security, you enter into a different territory where I'm not saying you don't have rights, but you're agreeing to travel under the guidelines that they're setting forth.
I mean, we see this all the time too with international travel and stuff like that. When you're coming back from international travel and trying to get back into the US or into another country, I mean, they can search for so many different things that, a police officer wouldn't be allowed to search for on the side of the road and stuff like that. So your rights that you have are definitely diminished. And you're subject to a lot more, privacy invasions and search issues in regards to cell phones and all these things that you would never, ever think of that they would just have a right to search at a border or at an airport. But, the police have the authority. And the last thing you want to do is for the police to find something, and then you're trying to fight a suppression issue instead of not bringing the item that you're not supposed to bring with you.
Now, folks, it's time for Murphy's Law or Stephanie's Selection, either one. But this is a story that attorney Stephanie Murphy has come across that she thinks is interesting. And what do you have for us this week, Stephanie Murphy?
So I know a couple times I've talked to you about that Brian Koberger murder trial that's going on with the 4 students. I found it really interesting. I think it was the beginning of this week that Brian's family, the trial is going to get going soon, and Brian's family might get called as a witness, but they also want to be present in the courtroom. So there was a motion on whether or not Brian's family could be in the courtroom with him and also take the witness stand. Typically, as you see in the Karen Reed trial, any witnesses who are going to be called to the stand get sequestered and not allowed to listen to the testimony. Because the point is you don't want the witnesses' memory or testimony to be shaded kind of by what they're hearing in the courtroom. But this is interesting because Brian's family are on the witness list. I heard they most likely will get called at some point. but the judge kind of put Brian's rights and everything like that before like a sequestration order. So his family is going to be allowed to be in the courtroom and also be allowed to testify, which I find very interesting because the jury's going to know that those are his parents. They're in the courtroom and they're also going to go on the stand. So I found that really interesting. I haven't had a trial where my request, or request for sequestration order was ever really not abided by.
Folks, again, it is attorney Stephanie Murphy. Stephanie, excellent job as always, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, John. Have a good weekend.
All right, folks, there it is, attorney Stephanie Murphy. And again, we had a minor glitch problem with her yesterday, so I'm glad we could get that on. All right, right now at 1:20 on this Friday, good afternoon, everyone. Again, quite a week with the Karen Reed trial. I'm going to bring you up to speed on that, and then let's stay on schedule as well. This portion of the program, Sunday is Mother's Day. Boy, you'd never know it. It's freezing out and it's raw, and it looks like it's going to start raining. Oh, just a quick reminder, Marin, Barrett, and Murphy, criminal defense lawyers, 50 years of combined Rhode Island criminal defense experience. Your fight becomes their fight. Call them 401-228-8271. If you have a legal question, contact them. Say you're a friend of the show, and at least, find out. Maybe you don't need an attorney. Maybe you do need an attorney. Give them a call. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Folks, Sunday's Mother's Day. Either Saturday or today or Sunday, they're open. Pop in. They have annuals, perennials, tree shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansy, marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandevillas, hibiscus plants. Stop in and see them. They're a full-scale nursery. They have PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. All right, 1:22 on this Friday. Now, in regards to the Karen Reed trial, this morning, I believe, and I believe that the defense, it means something. Who are the last witnesses that the jury hears for the weekend? Because the mindset, I should say, is that that's what's going to stick in their minds. So the point is, then you want to have something impactful for the last thing for them on Friday, right before the weekend. And you know what's interesting also, folks? Now here it is, Friday afternoon. And Monday, just this past Monday, it seems so long ago because then there's just so much information crammed in between. So if it is true that John O'Keefe's niece and nephew, who are both two minors, juveniles, if they're going to take the stand and testify, I would not think that these are witnesses. I don't think that that the defense would want the jury thinking about over the course of the weekend. Therefore, as much as this morning, it was, he was going after Trooper Yuri Buchanan, and it got pretty animated, and he seemed like Attorney Jackson seemed like he was at least getting under his skin a little bit, and they certainly had a back and forth. So Buchanan then settled down, and then if you were following and watching, they've now pivoted into where he's had him reading these text messages between defendant Karen Reed and Brian Higgins, who was a friend, who was an ATF agent, and Karen Reed, I don't think it was legit. I don't think that she was totally into him. I think the conventional wisdom is that she was trying to get John O'Keefe, her boyfriend, the Boston police officer, trying to get him jealous. He doesn't seem like the type. I don't know. Maybe he was. But they just had Yuri Buchanan read these text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed. And it, as much as it's uncomfortable, and it was really uncomfortable last year, they had Higgins read them. I think part of it is the defense is trying to just take up as much time as possible, because even when they finish with him, Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan will get a chance to do what they call redirect, and then Jackson could come up again and do cross. And I think possible they want to drag this right to 4 o'clock. We'll see. I mean, we're going to know sometimes as it starts getting towards 3:30. A lot of times the court doesn't bring up a brand new witness as you get closer to 4 o'clock. So, but I think that's one of the reasons why they're just kind of dragging this out, because this past Monday morning does seem like a lifetime ago. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Propane Plus. Call them 401 885 4209 in Rhode Island. In Massachusetts, 508 252 3359. Propane Plus, heating and cooling, residential or commercial, you can depend on Propane Plus. You just type in your zip code. You can depend on Propane Plus, always online at propaneplus.com. All right, 125. So I think it's interesting because there certainly seems to be growing speculation. The reason why Yuri Buchanan, the state trooper, the reason why they're having him read the text messages is because they don't plan on calling Brian Higgins. So the latest thought process right now is just that the prosecution is just not, they're not going to call all these witnesses that they called last time. You just heard Stephanie Murphy say that if they don't call them, then the defense could call them. But what we've learned, and so much of this is legal, we wouldn't know this. A lot of people would just say, well, then, why doesn't the defense just call them and they can pound away like they did last spring? Because it's a little bit different of that, as you heard. And I think Stephanie, I think she explained that pretty effectively. It has to do with there's much more open-ended questions, and you can't treat the witnesses because they're your witnesses. So it's not impossible. So, but I get the feeling, and we will see that I'm not convinced that the prosecution is going to call him. And the big one, I get it. Listen, the big one is Michael Proctor. That's who everyone is essentially waiting to see. And that's why the Commonwealth, the prosecutors have been trying to make it seem as though it's more of a team effort and that he wasn't, quote, like the lead detective. So, but this is where the skill, this is where someone like a special prosecutor, Hank Brennan, comes in, that you also, I do anyway, realize just how much Adam Lally was not up for what everyone went through last spring, where you had all of these people that were in the house that were witnesses. But then you have to ask, well, really, what were they witnesses to? Because if they just went in the house and they didn't see anything, you don't need all these people saying he never came in the house. So I don't know. I think that is off a little bit. I want to stress a couple of observations that I've had, folks, again, at 128. I also want to caution people, if they're not going to call as many witnesses as last spring, and it certainly doesn't seem that way, then you do start to think that maybe we're farther along into this thing than we had thought. Maybe we are in the fourth inning. Maybe we're in the fifth inning. So it's possible there's some big witnesses coming up, and one is the accident reconstructionist that the Commonwealth, the prosecutors have hired, that from what I understand has a pretty elaborate PowerPoint presentation that will demonstrate exactly what they believed happened. Now that obviously, to me, that is a huge witness for that, and then obviously the cause of death. Is it possible that Hank Brennan and the prosecution could actually wrap up their case next week? I mean, it's sure starting to seem that way. And definitely if we just look at the calendar on this May 9th, very possible that in the next week or so, they could wrap up. Defense won't take that long. And then the trial is right on schedule does it go to the jury before Memorial Day? I mean, that would be great. So very, very possible that's going to happen. I did want to share with you something that I think has been very effective, and that's, first of all, the texts are, as much as they're entertaining, it just goes on. But something that I think has been very effective in the courtroom is, number one, obviously having Peg O'Keefe there who testified. But whenever they had John's clothes, the clothes that Officer O'Keefe was wearing. And there's a difference of, I think in the past, it just held up like this was the sweatshirt. These were the pants. And it's then just like crumpled clothes. But what they did was they put them in plexiglass. And so you can see the front and the back. And the part that I want to stress to you is whenever it's a different feeling in the courtroom when the items of Officer John O'Keefe were presented. It's almost as if part of him is in the courtroom. It's very different. It's very different than just like all of a sudden there's a hush and there's his hat. And it's one thing if you're watching it, but when you see it, it is so you could, when you hear the expression of pin drop, I am telling you, just everybody goes quiet. That there's the shirt, there's the sweatshirt, there's it's a part of him. And the way they put it in the plexiglass, it was really effective. The other thing, and I want to mention the sneaker. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Roofco, Rhode Island. Hey, I want to remind you, if you want to increase the value, right, of your home or business, how about a new roof? Roofco, Rhode Island. Top level of service, prices you can afford. Call Joe, 401-868-7149. 401-868-7149. Roofco, Rhode Island. They will give you a free inspection. Happy to give you a free inspection, especially to see maybe you've had wind damage. If you've had wind damage, your insurance company will cover it. It'll increase the value of your home or property or business with a brand new roof. Roofco, Rhode Island. Maybe you have a leaky roof, missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing. Roofco, Rhode Island. Call them for a free estimate, 401-868-7149, 401-868-7149, Roofco, Rhode Island. Something else that I think has been very effective with the Karen Read trial. And I'll say a couple of different things. So today is day 13, and they have certainly, the prosecution now, they have done, it's night and day from the first trial, and then everything seemingly is focused outside by the flagpole. But I thought the sneaker is interesting because I was on Court TV last night, and they were talking about, the person I was on with was saying about the pieces of the taillight. And the pieces, he's alleging pieces of the taillight were planted. But when you watch it, what I realized that I think the prosecution has done, Hank Brennan's done a really masterful job on, is it's not just the taillight. You'd have to believe that all these other items that were found at the scene were planted at the scene. And what I find really that stands out was the shoe, because as Vinny said last night on Court TV, and I will be on tonight from 8 to 9, someone knocked out of their shoe is consistent with a vehicle strike. And they found his shoe by the curb, right? Like the shoe wasn't way deep in the yard. So just as a visual, and it was buried, and when they showed it, to me, it was almost akin to OJ when they had one glove at the condo where Nicole was at Bundy, and then the other glove was found, right, at Rockingham where OJ lived. So my point is, the matching sneakers, I'm telling you, it was very effective. And I know a number of people say his injuries are not consistent with a vehicle strike, but being knocked out of the shoes, on road patrol, we've been live on the scene when there's been a pedestrian accident in Warwick or Cranston or Providence or wherever. And what one of the things you see sometimes is that someone was literally knocked out of their shoes. I know that someone was saying, well, maybe because of the snow, it got caught in the snow and that's why it came off. But it really wasn't snowing of trekking through the snow. So I think the sneaker. So my point is, this whole business of that the tail light was planted. I think what really cuts into that was the drinking glass. He is seen with the drinking glass. Karen Reed says on video, John left. She's on video, which she shouldn't have done. Leaving, John's left the car with the drinking glass, which had the little straw you get when you order a mixed drink. The straw was found in the street. The drinking glass, shattered, was found right where he was, basically, by the flagpole. And then shards of the drinking glass were found in his shirt. So I think it's very difficult to try to argue that when her car went into the Canton Sally port and then they lifted taillight pieces to frame her and then scattered them where his body was found, I believe it becomes more difficult to do that when you also talk about the sneaker. His hat was like under 2 feet of snow or a foot of snow, and the straw and the drinking glass, all those things. Who would be so sophisticated? Who would think we're going to frame her and we're going to bury his sneaker there, or we're going to put the straw? I think, I think that's a tough hill. So I'm just not convinced they're going to be able to do that. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Now remember, they're located right off of 295, Cranston-Johnson line, Kids Club on the Pike. Birthday party venue, before and after school care, preschool, but you want to make sure you reserve a spot for your child for the summer camp at Kids Club on the Pike. Right on the Cranston-Johnson line, right off of 295. Call Kristen. Maybe it's for a week. Maybe it's for a month. Maybe it's for the whole summer. Kids Club on the Pike, summer camp. Yes. 401-443-5336. I share their Facebook page. They have really good social media. It's Kids Club on the Pike. All right, so 137, following what's going on, that North Kingstown, I don't know. I know Coach Thomas was on the stand, and supposedly he was crying, and he's saying, he's lost everything. I don't, to me, that comes off as though he's now, when he was saying he was sorry, he's almost like trying to apologize to the jury. I don't know how that's going to come out. Now, as far as the Karen Reed trial, if the niece and nephew get up this afternoon before the weekend, that would be really impactful for the jury as they're about to head into the weekend, because I'll tell you, it's very taxing on the jury and it's exhausting. And what I've noticed is right around 3 o'clock, they kind of start to hit the wall. Actually, everybody does, because it's very intense and you got to pay attention. And I don't know the occupation of the various people that are on the jury, but many of them may not have an occupation where you have to be, you're like an air traffic controller, you got to pay attention. And so I would think after a while that gets really tiring. So I think right now, if you're the defense, your goal is to have it that the trooper's going to come back on Monday, just to run out the clock on this Friday. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Now remember, Sunday is Mother's Day. Father's Day's coming up. You know what? Listen, your mom and dad or anyone would love to have their driveway paved. Contact letter J. Perry Paving, free estimate, any project, 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, 20 years of experience in commercial paving, residential paving, seal coating patios. Letter J. Perry Paving. Free estimate, 401-732-1730. And remember, no one is better to veterans than J. Perry Paving. Give them a call. They have a special package for veterans. Call them and find out. Free estimate, 401-732-1730. I share a lot of their social media. Well, folks, good afternoon. Something else that I want to mention, and it comes in handy, I think, for those of you, and I realize a lot of people don't follow as many trials, but for those of you that remember when we covered Officer Dolan. Officer Dolan was the police officer from Pawtucket. And I mean, the guy really, went off the deep end with, he was the one that on that June night, there were the three teens right off the highway who then, he felt that they were speeding. And Officer Dolan, for those of you who remember, the Pawtucket police officer, he shot. Do you remember the Dominic, the driver? They were coming out of that pizza place. They pulled in, then he whipped in, and he's coming at them. So then they go to pull out of there, and then he actually shot him. Now that could have been an unbelievable tragedy if he had shot and killed the driver. I mean, he did hit Dominic, but he could have hit him. And then if he had crossed over, because those are two Deustick Hill Road, two close lanes to travel, and that could have been an unbelievable tragedy. But my point is, Dolan, who then, after all of this, he had a huge domestic at home. He then, remember, he got caught a DUI in Coventry. We've played the body cam videos or the jail cell where he is totally out of his mind at the jail, and just, being a total jerk. But my point is, when he got on the stand, granted, he had a really very excellent attorney in Michael Colucci. But when Officer Dolan, when he got on the stand, he had military experience. And when Officer Dolan got on the stand, he was, yes, sir, no, sir. And he didn't get riled. And what happened? They had him nailed dead to rights. He shot an unarmed teen off duty for no reason. He could have just called the police. Hey, there's somebody speeding. Shot him. And he was found not guilty. Why? Because, and I remember we had our legal analyst at the time, attorney Tim Dodd, because a lot of times juries, they want to believe police. They'd like to believe first responders. When members of the military are on the stand, I find that they just have a certain way we regard them in the courtroom. And so when Trooper Buchanan is on the stand, and this is someone that joined the military after 9/11, and he is a Massachusetts state trooper. I get that some people feel, they're all corrupt, and all cops lie and test a lie and blah, blah, blah. But what I'm telling you is, I have not found that in the courtroom. In a courtroom, police, juries, they want to believe police. In a courtroom, most people, they want to believe a firefighter. They want to believe a paramedic. They feel good about a veteran. They look at a Marine a certain way. They look at a member of the Army a certain way. So I don't know how far this is going. And for this thing to really take hold, and I'm talking about the Karen Reed trial, is people would truly have to believe that the police behaved badly. And I think right now I'm not exactly sure which inning we're in. It's tough to know because we don't know how many witnesses they're going to call. But after day 13, I think we could now say we're like in the fourth, fifth inning, right around there. So far, we're not seeing anything egregious that the police behaved badly. You could certainly knock that the Canton investigation was casual. That's fair, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they are going to be able to prove that. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Serve Pro of Providence. Remember Serve Pro. Fast, thorough, professional. When you have a fire or a flood or mold, Serve Pro of Providence. Call them today, 401-941-5500. Fast, thorough, professional, Serve Pro of Providence, 401-941-5500. They're another one I share their Facebook page. Well, folks, it is Friday afternoon. Sunday is Mother's Day, and joining us right now, she is, it'd be a great place to get some nice items for Mother's Day. You guessed it, at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Good afternoon, Marie.
Good afternoon, John, on this rainy Friday.
It
But
is.
it's supposed to be nice on Sunday, which for
Wow.
all our moms, all the moms out there, definitely a nice day. We deserve it. They
All
deserve
right.
it.
But right now, well, Marie, let's start with that. What are some nice things, or what's our product for this afternoon that you'd like to recommend?
Well, I was just thinking about how many people are trying not to drink too much coffee anymore. And there's a lot of coffee alternatives out there. You see a lot on Facebook, on the internet. We do carry some mushrooms are really a big thing, because they just do so much for our bodies. And it's a good way to get the mushrooms into our systems. But if you're trying to, we have a number of things. This one here had, no coffee at all in it. It's got mushrooms. It does have a little caffeine. It uses guarana, which is an herb, for that little bit of energy. But, very tasty. This other company, Ohm, has all of the adaptogens in it. So it has some ashwagandha and things like that in it. Really tasty. It's got some other herbs that help with the body. So you're drinking something that tastes kind of like coffee, but doesn't give you those jitters. And it even comes in bags. You brew it. So there's one. This one's the mocha, but the other day I did one called amaretto almond. And I wasn't super crazy about it hot, but it was great cold. So really enjoyed that. And then, just another one, chaga mushroom with the ashwagandha. Ticino makes quite a few different things, and they make it in the bags, and then they also make it as a tea bag, so you can easily carry it around, and then you can make either a hot or a cold tea. So I was just thinking about, that a lot of people are trying to get away from coffee, but they still have that habit and they want something to sip on, something, warm and hot in the morning, maybe cold in the afternoon, but a good healthy way to have something that tastes good, but also is good for you.
Now, Marie, it's Mother's Day weekend. What's happening tomorrow at It's My Health? And I'm willing to bet if someone pops in 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland, you have some nice gift suggestions for mom.
We certainly do have things that we can suggest for moms. We also have gift certificates, so they can get a gift certificate if maybe mom wants to try taking a yoga class or a Tai Chi class, or maybe they want to go to Pilates and try a Pilates class. Tomorrow, we also have our monthly Power of Eight meditation. So anybody and everybody is welcome. It's free. It's a beautiful circle of people who get together and they do these 8-minute meditations on various things. And the world certainly needs us to be praying and meditating these days. So
Absolutely. You are the queen of health. Marie, excellent job as always. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Take care. Happy
All right,
Mother's
folks.
Day.
That's right. Folks, there she is, Marie at It's My Health. Stop in and see her, especially right now on this Friday. Maybe you're listening. And again, folks, we're on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. You can listen online at our website, depetro.com. Right now, during this time, we're also live on X, we're live on YouTube, and we're also live on Facebook at 1:48 on this Friday. But pop in and see her. I think it's always important to support our local retailers. So as far as now, I'm going to be going back in session for the afternoon session of the Karen Reed trial. Uh, Trooper, Massachusetts State Trooper Yuri Buchanan, he's been on for a while now, and not a lot of the witnesses have. I know that was, I think that was discussed a little bit, but not of a lot of the witnesses have been. But this week, you've seen where the prosecution has made gains between Jessica Hyde, obviously the voicemails, and Stephanie Murphy had mentioned those. That was powerful. The clothes were powerful. Where they found some of the things they recovered at the scene, trying to work within the blizzard. All in all, it's not one big thing. It's all kind of pieced together. And I've heard some people say, how is this 13 days? They still haven't said how he, what happened to him and how did he die and blah blah blah. Well, I would say, you have to think about if you're building a house, and I'm going to talk about Arch in just a moment. But folks, if you're building a home or a business, you don't start with the roof. You don't start with the second floor. If you're building any structure, you start with the foundation. So it's the same way when you are putting on a case that the Commonwealth is, you lay the foundation and then you build up from there. But what I think is interesting is this is a much more streamlined approach. It's going to be shorter. I think it benefits also the jury. There's not as many days off. So this thing is moving along. The judge has said it's even ahead of schedule, which is tremendous. Now, again, I want to caution people. The defense will get a chance to put on their case. And they're going to have some of their own experts come in. And then it's all a matter of how they can handle it. And I also want to be very clear. That's why I get people asking me what I think is going to happen. You don't know until you have to see the whole thing come out. You don't know until you see how the defense puts on their case. You don't know until you hear closing arguments. We don't know what's coming. What the state does, what the state of Massachusetts and the prosecutor has to do is drill down with accident reconstruction and also cause of death. That he died as a result of what they're alleging is that she hit him and left him. And as a result of that, Officer John O'Keefe lost his life. So people now, and I see people, I mean, believe me, I see comments. I see this every single day. Well, there's reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is something that comes in after the final arguments go in. When the jury has the case, that's when then you can weigh, have they made the case? Or have they made the case? Or is there somewhat reasonable doubt? I'll say this. There's 3 charges against her. So far, as we're almost like halfway through, I don't know if she walks away at all. I mean, last trial, the trial last spring ended in a mistrial. I'm not convinced she walks away with everything. Those clips that they play of Karen Reed doing those interviews, I'm telling you, they're very powerful. And they're very different. I've never seen, no one has. No one can mention the effectiveness, is what I'm saying. And as I've talked about, these are beautifully filmed. This isn't grainy. It's recent. Some of them are within a year. Some of them, she was doing these interviews last June. So she was talking outside the courthouse yesterday. I think it's a little bit of a different strategy. Yesterday, Karen Reed said, I did see him go in the house. She's never said that before. She's done some other interviews where she didn't say that, where she said she saw him walking towards the house. Or she said, I think I saw him pop his head in. And then there's this video of Karen Reed saying, well, we found him right in the area where I dropped him off. So, and that also begs another question. If in fact Karen Reed saw Officer John O'Keefe walk in that house, if that was the case, why would you be saying, did I clip him? Why would you even be asking, did I hit him? So if you drop someone off and then peeled out of there, then you could say, I don't know if he ever made him in. But by her saying, oh no, I saw him walk in, which she said yesterday for the first time, I think that may have been helpful to be said in either the 2020 interview, ABC Nightline, or maybe say in the Dateline, NBC Dateline. But yesterday outside of court was the first time that Karen Reed said, I saw him walk in the house. Again, not to be redundant here, but if that really were the case, why would you be saying I hit him? Or why would you be asking, did I hit him? And it's on video of her saying, did I clip him? Did I hit his knee? Did I hit his leg? Did I run over his foot? You wouldn't be saying those things if you saw him walk into the house. Folks, this portion of our program, talking about building and laying foundation. Arch Design Builders. Give them a call. Ed and Roxanne, 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders. If you're thinking of a new kitchen, or a new bathroom, or a new basement, or a deck. Maybe you have a special project, redesign of your house. Arch Design Builders, 5-star builders. This is who you want to go with. Let me explain something. You want to meet with Ed and Roxanne. You want to be in business with Ed and Roxanne. 401 218 9707. 401 218 9707. What you want to do is set up a meeting, meet with them. Once you start doing a project with Arch Design Builders, that's who you're going to want to deal with. Arch Design Builders. Set up that free meeting, free consultation. 401 218 9707. Now, let's see. Anna sent me an email. Anna would like to resurface her tennis court. She has a tennis court. There it is. A tennis court at Bonnet Shores. Who could resurface it? Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, Anna. Call them. Call them at 401-283-9815. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They could resurface a tennis court or a pickleball court or a basketball court. They could epoxy a garage or a patio. They do decorative concrete flooring. They can make your pavement look like new. They offer crack filling, pothole repair, line striping. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They're another one. They have really good social media. 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. So it's Friday afternoon at 1:56. Now I'm about to go back across the street and go in for the afternoon session with the Karen Reed murder trial. It's day 13. I will also be in court next week. If you have Fox Nation streaming, I'll be live on that platform coming up next hour, live 3 to 4 with Paul Morrow. Court TV tonight, 8 to 9, talking about the Karen Reed trial. Now, happy Mother's Day to everyone from Watson Materials. Call them 401-885-0600. Remember, landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Material, 401-885-0600. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone. The most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. So, folks, coming up on 158. And again, we'll obviously monitor. Pawtucket was very busy yesterday. I put out Pawtucket. They arrested 10 people yesterday. That was a big arrest. I'm pretty sure we're the only ones that have video of that. We're the only ones that have video of the Pawtucket arrest. Pawtucket's been very, very busy. 10 people arrested in Pawtucket. And then also, police were called there was a fight at a funeral home where during a wake, and we also have video of that posted. So as much as we're juggling everything, and I understand it's a lot, we're not missing anything. I mean, Pawtucket also released the name of the 19-year-old homicide victim. That was not from just this past Monday. That was from last week. So Pawtucket's had 2 homicides. By the way, Jesse is the victim. I posted that as well. He, 19 years old. The suspect is still on the loose. They do not have an arrest there. The one from Monday, they do have an arrest. But I posted video of, I mean, that's a lot. 10 people involved. You can read the press release. We put it up. But we're the only ones that have the video up. And folks, remember, follow also on YouTube and follow on Instagram, because I utilize different platforms for different things, whether it's TikTok, what have you. So you can, I don't know, he's not yelling at me, he's yelling at the police. So I don't know what that was all about. I'm not involved. He's yelling at someone else. We'll see how that ends up. Something about a puppy ride. I don't know what's involved in the puppy ride in the rain. I'm not sure exactly what was going on with that. All right, folks, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, I'll probably do an update later on. Thank you for tuning in on this Friday.